go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Historic Area Commission meeting. It is Thursday, October 9th, 2025. If we could start by having each member state their name.
Cynthia Batty.
Michael Westman.
Tara Ewart. Lisa Doak.
Kevin Wade.
Also present was Jeff Bergstrom, building official, and Lisa Hatfield, town
Solicitor.
city solicitor. Yes. There we go. So we have a quorum. I just wanted to say quickly before we get into this, a little unusual circumstance tonight. My cat, William Bradford, is at University of Pennsylvania Veterinary Hospital. He had a pretty major surgery today. I may be receiving a call from the veterinarian. I hope they call my husband instead, but in case that happens, I don't want to miss that. So,
Definitely not.
just very unusual, but just if you see me skedaddle, that's what's happening. So, wanted to make everyone aware of that. Should we?
Maybe explain where Layla is too, for the record.
Oh, yes. So, Layla Hamroon, the preservation architect, is not able to be with us tonight. She was on a site visit in St. Louis, and her flight has been delayed multiple times. And we're hopeful she's on her way back now, but she may still be sitting at the airport. I'm sure we'll find out. And with that, should we start by reviewing the minutes from the June 12th meeting? And I think we also have the May 10th. May 10th or I'm sorry, July 10th meeting minutes that we need to approve.
I didn't see any errors.
Me neither. I would make a motion to accept the minutes as written for the June 12th meeting.
I would second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Lisa
Motion-
has to abstain.
So 4 affirmative and 1 abstention. The July 10th meeting minutes.
I didn't see any errors too.
I did either. You see any questions from you, Lisa? No, that's all. The motion to
Move to approve.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain. Kevin,
Aye.
just abstain. Because you weren't here.
Oh, same.
So 3 affirmative and 2 abstentions. Motion approved. So we have one application on the agenda tonight for 59 The Strand, Mark Lorenz and Lori Petoni Lorenz. Right. You're welcome to move up further if you would like. So,
Sure.
it can be a little awkward talking from, so far away.
We also have a representative from the solar company, Mark Miller, join us. He was involved in the consultations with Layla
Okay.
as well, so.
Fantastic. So starting off, would you tell us a little bit about your project?
Sure. So my wife and I, Lori, live at 59 Strand, which is at the intersection of the Strand and Harmony Streets. And we've been part of the community for about 5.5 years now. And what we're proposing is to install solar panels on the back side of the property, which would produce sufficient energy to offset the consumption based on the last couple of years of electric use of the property. The panels would be located on the rear of the garage and the rear of the house. Neither of the location of the panels would be visible from Harmony, the Strand, or any other public way. We did a consultation with Layla, it was really helpful because we were able to modify the original proposal so that the panels would not be visible from the terminus of Harmony Street. The prior initial proposal, they would be because they were gonna be on a flat roof and needed to be on a ramp system that angled them at the sun. But after the consultation with Layla, we're able to move those panels off that low slope flat roof to the back side of a metal roof of the property, so that they're not visible at all, and eliminate the structure that they would have to be on if it were a flat roof, because the pitch of the metal roof is such that it aligns with the sun. So they're facing south the property there, and they would have 12 panels on the rear of the garage roof and 4 panels on the metal roof at the rear of the property as well. The advantage of it is it's not visible from the property. There's nothing that would be visible in terms of the system at all from any of the street levels for that. Our proposal does not include a battery system, so essentially it's just the surplus during the day is flowing back to the utility company, which has approved the project, and then draw from the utility company at nighttime when we're no longer producing power. But the net is that we would have enough power generated to offset what our consumption is on the electric side. I've been looking at solar for some time. I'm not an early adopter, so this has been out there for several years. I want to think work through the thing in this and feel confident that production is efficient. We can net out enough to power to provide this, and we took a look at the different vendors around town and or in the community, and feel comfortable with CMI, who's the company, the utility that we're proposing to go with. A little bit of a time crunch, just because, as you're mostly aware, with significant changes at the federal level, the incentives are going away at the end of the year. So we were asking to get approved with this one so we could move forward. And if we are able to get approval, we're able to meet that deadline so we can get things materials ordered, and CMI can do the installation prior to the end of the calendar year when the incentives go away. The current incentives are around 30% of the project. Total project's around 22,000, so you get about a 6,000 incentive to do this one. It does have a return on investment, so economically it makes sense for us to do. It still has the function of being attached to the utility company, should we need that. We did not go with the battery backup, just because we've actually enjoyed very few power interruptions at our location in and so the need for an emergency power backup just hasn't presented itself. It adds some additional cost to the project to include that battery, and also you would have to attach that battery somewhere on the outside of the property, and so we avoid all of that. by not going through the battery, but just connecting directly back to the grid.
What are the size of the panels?
Sure, I'm gonna. There's a person in the room that knows this much better than I do. Mark, do you wanna, this is Mark Miller with CMI, I think they're about 6 by 3 feet. They're about 68 inches by about 45 inches.
So about 5x4, roughly, okay.
I think there was some, in the proposal, you included some photos, or actually you have some photos.
I have some photos and I have some, drawings.
It's easier just to ask. Second question, there's some electronics that come with it, an inverter package, where's that located?
So the inverter package is actually, we showed it to Layla and she was comfortable with it. It's actually, on the Harmony Street side of the house, behind 2 levels of, greenery screening. So I got an arborvitae on Harmony Street, a hedge, and then in the side yard, I've got another arborvitae hedge. It's behind both of those. It is gonna be located adjacent to where I have my heat pumps and AC units. And while they're on the Harmony Street side, they're completely invisible from people passing on the Strand or Harmony because of the vegetation that they're behind.
And
So
the
you have a-
dimensions of that package,
That's about, I think it's about
2 by 2 feet.
size of a bag,
Yeah,
easily.
and it's attached rather than on the ground, it's attached to the stucco wall that's behind the arborvitae screen.
And this doesn't relate to approval, but just curiosity, do you have to have the project finished by the cutoff date or something started?
That was my question too.
to meet the federal requirement, it needs to be finished.
You guys have to say it's,
It has to pass the electrical inspection.
okay, fair enough.
So pretty well done, yeah.
Just as a comment from looking through the attachments, which are very complete, thanks for all that work. It seems you've done a very good job, thorough job to make it unintrusive, so thank you.
Well, we've gone through several versions of it to try to do that. And the consultations with Layla were helpful, in terms of that effort of keeping it, minimizing any impact to the aesthetic of the house or the neighborhood. I don't know, when I realize each house that you look at is a little different, and ours, fortunately, we had some large metal roofs that were in the rear of the property that fit this need pretty well.
And no trees.
And no
Yeah,
trees
no
directly
trees.
over us. We have lots of trees, but none that block the panels too, yeah. Yeah, we don't have to take any shrubbery or trees down to put the,
I'm content, I have no further questions, the other
Yeah, me
commissioners
neither.
might have
I'm
one.
good.
Thank you for such a complete application. This is really, if every application were like this, it would make the work that we do a lot easier. And I'm also really glad that you were able to take advantage of the consultation with Layla. It's, why they exist, and it's because we want
Yeah.
these projects to be successful. We don't want to have to tell people no. So, or, I'm really glad you were able to do that. And
well, we've lived in historic areas in other parts of the country where we didn't have this type of commission. And we've experienced firsthand when people put in as our neighbors next to us, that really impact us. And so we do see the need for the commission's work to kind of help protect us from ourselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes on this.
yeah, I think it's what drew all of us here, really.
Exactly.
Well, everything looks in order to me. We have Layla's notes, sort of detailing the changes that you went through, the different iterations for, each step here. This complies with the design guidelines and standards. So, we have the subject matter expert's recommendation for approval. It meets the requirement for the design guidelines and standards. Are there any concerns or questions? Is there any public comment related to this application? We do have one letter that I would like to read into the record. This is from Rob Rossiter. Says Historic Area Commission. I will not be able to attend the meeting on October 9th, 2025, as I will be out of town. However, I would like to voice my objection to the installation of solar panels in the historic district of Newcastle. The proposal of installing high-tech devices of this size in the historic district seems counterintuitive to me. As a community, we should preserve the historical nature of the buildings and not permit residents to install large unsightly solar panels on these homes. I fully appreciate the green nature of these systems located in appropriate locations. However, my feeling is that it would not include installing solar panels in historical Newcastle. Thank you for considering my position. Robert, so we are always appreciative when people voice their concerns, and obviously glad to hear that people are concerned about preserving the, historic streetscape and, our cultural and historical assets here. But our decisions are guided by the criteria set out in the design guidelines and standards, and then the advice of the subject matter expert. This, as we said, meets those criteria, so there is no concern for me, at least.
Can I make a motion to approve the application
As presented.
as presented?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None? All right.
Thank you very much
Motion
for your
approved.
time and.
Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Indeed, hope you get it done. Fine.
Good, right? Okay. Yeah, you heard it here.
Aside the squirrels, I do have one other question. Did you consult the squirrels about this?
No, we have our dogs chasing after squirrels.
That's good.
So there aren't any
You
squirrels.
wanna loan them out?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could rent them out. We know.
They do love to chase the geese.
Yeah, the geese kind of ended our property line,
Perfect.
so they've learned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
We have a planning commission update.
We do. The planning commission, as you all know, has dealt with several ordinances that relate to the historic area recently. One, which I mentioned before, ordinance 555 for short-term rentals. The planning commission has approved language which we worked on for 7 months to look at the best practices for city regulations of short-term rentals in the United States and around the world. And I think we came up with a set of recommended legal structures which will allow people who really want to do a short-term rental to do it, but will also make sure that there's no negative impact to the neighborhoods around. And it includes many excellent fine points of legal writing, which include how many violations of the law would be permitted for the
Right.
license would be rescinded, which is really pretty important. And we were very conservative about that stuff. Also, while we allowed 2 rooms to be rented out with 1 off-street parking, if you go to 3 rooms, it requires 2 off-street parkings. Along the way, we did a census of off-street parking just incidentally, and more than 1/3 of the homes in the historic district parcels have off-street parking. So the requirement for off-street parking is not unduly restrictive. And so in every way, we tried to be as fair as we could. And that will be looked at and potentially voted on next Tuesday by city council. I did hear a rumor that somebody was positing that they might just have 3 licenses which rotated between houses. This was conversation, it was not in the ordinance. I would like to say for the record that that would be great, that would be fine, but all these other rules need to be in place. Parking, how many violations you're allowed to have, a requirement for $1 million in insurance, the homeowner has to be the one who gets the license, and those sorts of things. So I think it's a very, very well-crafted piece of legislation, and I hope that nobody messes with it, just lets it exist. So that's one thing. We're chapter by chapter looking at the plan and noting changes for 5 years and for 10 years. That's incidental, but that's part of the work that we're doing at this time. The other one, the other one is a little bit more concerning. As some of you may know, the historic residence zone does not presently permit home occupancy businesses. That is excluded by omission from the city code. And it has become clear that the city council wants to solve a problem with one situation by allowing home occupation businesses in the historic district. I'm really concerned about this because none of our other code requires parking, limits the number of people who can come into a home-based business. The Newcastle City Code allows 25% of the usable property, interior property, to be used for a home-based business, and there's no restriction. So for example, as an example I used in that meeting was, we have in our personal home, a 4,400 square foot house. So we could have an 1,100 square foot business with as many people as could fit into it, plus their cars, with no restriction. And the advice we had from the city solicitor, Max, was that those determinations would be made on a case-by-case basis, which I think sets up an inherent unfairness and potential for favoritism and other unpleasant things to happen. Nevertheless, the Plan Commission voted on this. The only thing that was talked about in the meeting was whether we wanted to change some of the underlying rules for home-based businesses in our city code, but all of the discussion was focused on the yoga studio and not on the potential for people to set up training classes or, party venues or, child care places or whatever else, which are not expressly currently forbidden in the law. So I think that there's, I'm concerned about this for the well-being of the historic district. There's also no rules to take their license away. So
What is the definition, if I can interrupt, of the business?
of a home-based business,
Yeah.
a business operated by a single resident or owner of a home, which uses less than 25% of the square footage of the space, and may, I think I was reading all the codes today, so I might be a little confused, but I think that the Newcastle City Code allows one non-resident person also to work there. And it's limited currently to things like an art studio or such like things. Doctor's offices are not permitted. But it is very light on what's permitted and what's not permitted.
But let me draw an example.
Mhm,
Someone does financial consulting,
mhm,
and
That's
he has a
permitted.
newsletter.
Yeah, that'd be permitted.
No one ever visits his house.
Yeah.
No one ever does.
Yeah.
Is that a home-based business to be?
That was a contentious discussion, and I think it's kind of how you look at it. My personal view is that would not fall under this. What you're doing in your house
Well, it's
privately,
gonna be more what the statute
yeah,
says.
statute silent. statute is.
It has to recognize the difference between people constantly coming and going through the front door versus
Mhm.
people who are talking to their clients around the world on the
Yeah.
internet.
Well, I
That's
think
very important, otherwise you'll have abuses of.
Max gave conflicting advice on that. I would be very direct, and I would certainly ask for your opinion on that too, but the subject was actually discussed. If I'm just sitting at my computer and I'm a management consultant, and I am, and I'm working for a client, is that a home-based business under this definition?
I don't think it should. be.
I don't think it is.
There's, it shouldn't, but it
No.
needs to be put in the code, so some of
It's-
the future doesn't decide they have a right against the neighbor.
I've read codes all over the state that is never identified. The only thing that's identified is if people come to your house to do business with you. And in most of the local city codes, it is limited to 1 to 3 people. So, so ours is unlimited. It's a big portion of your usable space. There's no way that you can terminate it. There's no requirement that they have a license with the city. I mean, it is a shambles.
I believe Mike Hoffman is working on this, I believe, but I'll find out. I'll look into it when I get back.
Well,
He's attending council meeting, and if it's on the agenda for next Tuesday, he would be the one that's looking at that.
well, I'm putting together what, and this is off the topic of reporting on the meeting, but I stopped them the meeting before from just approving it because I said, what's everybody else doing around us? We did that with short-term rentals, and it was illuminating, you know, what other people are doing. And it made a difference in the development of the language of that ordinance. I think the problem here is that there's a lot of empathy for the yoga studio, and it's getting in the way of doing a good piece of legislation for a critical historic area, one of the most important historic areas in the United States, and has the potential, because of no specificity on how many people can come in, or whether you have to have parking, or, you know, do you have to have insurance? You know, we just said for short-term rentals, there has to be $1 million in insurance. There's no requirement for toilet facilities. There's no requirement for fire inspection. There's nothing. And I think what's really confounded me is that the yoga studio, and I wish everybody well in this, and I think she should go to the Board of Adjustment, which is where you get these things adjudicated. But as it stands right now, I have trouble seeing how that would be approved under this language, which is extremely vague. And therefore, if they're doing this for that, then it's not going to meet the objective. So and then there's additional stuff for the historic area, like, are you allowed to have a sign or not? Many other
Yeah.
cities do not permit a sign. You know, the one that's there now has a sign. This is one of the most important historic districts in the United
I think
States.
the way, and I've just from what I've read, I think the way that, the code is written now, I don't think I'm thinking back to the planning classes that I've taken. I think in most home occupation ordinances, it can't interfere with the residential aspect
Mhm.
of the area.
The
So it
language in our
can't,
code
it can't
doesn't
look
say
like
that.
a business, or you can't have a sign. I thought that the language in the code as it is says that you can't have a sign or it can't
No,
interfere.
it
but,
does not.
I
I
don't
just
have
read
in front of me.
it.
But no, that's typically, I think pretty standard for.
It is for other cities.
Yeah.
It is not in our case.
ordinances.
So,
I think this needs to mature more.
Yeah.
If you have people, for example, who I know people work for JP Morgan Chase at home. Is that a home business?
I don't think so.
But is it a home business? They're out there, they're making money, they're being productive. They might have a visitor come in, not likely, but could happen.
Mhm.
Do we want to intrude in that? And we're getting into an economy where you might have 1 in 3 people who actually are working
From home.
from home. We
I,
just have to be
working
careful.
from home is,
We don't
it's
misassign
silent.
a club, misassign the use of a club that could be abused in the future.
Yeah, no, I get that, but that's not been raised as an issue in any other areas that we've looked at, so. And,
Well, it would be easy enough to include a clause that says working from home is not considered having a business in your
Yeah.
house.
Right.
Or having an incidental visitor
Exactly.
once in 6
well,
months.
and there's exceeding illogic. I have a art studio in my basement. gonna come take it down.
Yeah.
You know? Seriously, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So, who was it that said it's not matured enough? This needs a lot more discussion.
Yeah.
And I think it exposes the historic area to, most importantly, to favoritism in decision-making over who gets a license and who doesn't, because it's so vague. And that could end up creating risk for the city.
But again, should you have to get a license to have your little art studio?
No, you don't.
No.
Not under our law.
Yes, Jeff.
I will tell you that I've shut down home occupations on the Strand and I'm in Van Dyke Village over just too much traffic from deliveries,
Yeah.
pickups and deliveries. So
Right.
you zoning, if it really indeed does concern itself with external the inequities with the overlying zoning district, then you've gotta consider everything. One guy was raising goldfish or, fine fish, and there were just too many FedEx, and the neighbors were complaining there were all these deliveries to the house, it was blocking traffic.
Was he making money?
Yes, he was,
Yeah.
but he was also rotted out Daddy's floor, part of the floor joist, because he didn't know how to put lids on the aquarium.
But I guess it begs the
The
question.
other guy on the Strand was rebuilding computers when that was the thing, and he had, the delivery trucks are just parked there, and they'd be loading and loading and loading, and then unloading, and it made the neighbors crazy, and that's.
So it begs the question then, there has to be something written somewhere that allows you to enforce this.
It's already, so.
Well, there is, it's in the code, the way I read it, that you
Yeah.
can't have negative,
Impact on the neighborhood.
effects on the neighborhood, and,
Right.
but I don't know. We're still on the record, but I spent hours trying to find car traffic to the yoga studio,
And there's none.
and there's none.
And that's fine.
The one guy was I saw walking down the street with the yoga mat over. I don't know how they said there was a big class in the yoga studio. One guy walking down the street with a yoga mat over his shoulder and turned into the.
I think we're spared just by the practicality. I think we're spared of any gross abuse of like a home business in certainly in the old part.
I just heard it too, that got shut down.
Most of
frankly.
the potential customers can't parallel park.
Especially.
So that limits your market.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a fact.
However, just based on this, if the yoga studio wants to operate, go to the Board of Adjustment. You've got a lot of evidence that it's not disruptive, let it
Pretty
go.
hard to get a use variance in Delaware. I wouldn't.
It is.
We have a very friendly Board of Adjustment to this particular situation. So,
It could change in a year. I mean, you're putting things in place for 50 and 100 years, so we have to be very.
I think we need to.
Careful.
Absolutely.
So at any
The
rate,
town's been here a long time.
I appreciate the sympathetic ear. On the record, I voted against this. Everyone else voted for it. And I think it's very short-sighted, and I'm deeply concerned. And at the moment, I'm preparing a matrix of all the cities around here from what the planning advisor and the solicitor provided us, what other cities are doing, and just making a matrix and saying parking, deliveries,
These are the requirements.
and we are woefully under specified for this. And I think there's a potential for abuse. We have a whole lot of new people moving into town. I worry about it. And I feel also, and I've said this in the planning commission meetings, and I'll say it here, and I'm going to say it again. This is one of the most important historic districts in the United States. And I do not feel that that is being respected currently with the way that some of this legislation is going. And I raise the alarm again, right here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go to the record.
Thank
And
you.
we can look to Jeff to find that bit of the code that he's found to be the sheriff in town in the meantime.
Well, it's only on one item.
In the third of a century of sheer joy.
And well, it's been two people, right?
You wear it well, Jeff. All right, that's it for my report.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
need a drink now.
I will teach you to do draw.
The last item is the signage in the Historic Commerce District. So I spoke to the city administrator, Antonina Tantillo. We haven't met for 2 months. I wanted to review this document. So a couple months ago, we came up with a draft of a document that is meant to be a supplemental document, you know, just kind of guidance for the existing design guidelines and standards for when it comes to commercial signage in the Historic Commerce District. It doesn't change anything that's already there. So we're not introducing anything new, but maybe just some helpful illustrations with examples of what is considered appropriate, just to help people put together a more successful application. You know, highlighting the fact that you can have an on-site consultation with the preservation architect. And I think that these are all things that are really helpful that we offer that are not as accessible in other historic areas.
Is that your phone ringing?
It is not.
No, okay, I'm just worried about.
No, thank you, thank you. And as we've mentioned already, we want everyone to be successful. We don't want people to spend money or put in time or effort on something that is not appropriate and that they have to take down.
Yeah.
Because it's been so long since we've met, and I think because there have been a lot of things, you touched on many of them, that have kind of been going on in between. She asked for a bit more time to review it, so hopefully we can review this at the next meeting and make have a list of feedback and make any changes,
Okay.
and then hopefully that can be added to the website. I will say that something that I think will be helpful is I know that Antonina is planning a like a workshop for the downtown development district, as well as talking about the historic area commission, that people can attend and hopefully learn a little bit more.
That'd be good.
You know, we have all this information, and I will just stress that we want to be as helpful as possible, but we as commissioners, we have to remain unbiased, so we can't talk to applicants about this. And so we can't talk to them about applications. We can certainly guide them to the design guidelines and standards, and if they still have questions, you know, direct them to the office where Jeff, Marika, Antonina can direct their questions to Layla and then forward the answer back. You know, we want to help people, but also we need to make sure that they understand what the procedure is for getting answers to those questions.
Yeah, Lisa, for your benefit, a lot of people who moved in with very exciting new businesses, and all of us here patronize those businesses and love them. They put up atrocious signs that they need to remove.
Understood.
And
all manner of other things too.
yeah, and other things. Well,
And it creates an environment where, you know, one person who is following the process is then looking at, you know, all of their neighbors, and
with
it's like,
neon signs out
why
front.
do I have to follow this if
Yeah.
no one else does?
Right,
And again, enforcement is not down to us. That's not our purview. But we have people, you know, I'm sure that you all have experienced this as well. We have people that come up to us and it's, you know, they're upset because they don't understand why they have to do something if no one else has to do it.
Correct.
And,
Understandable, yeah.
but, you know,
About keeping it fit.
this is codified. I mean, we're not a
ad hoc.
Yeah, we're not here to just give suggestions, you know, this is, we exist because this is a zoning overlay. We have to exist because of that, and, we want to help everyone succeed. So that's, you know, that's our mission, but we also have to use the guidelines that have been set forth by the city council. So,
And I read through this, this is the latest reiteration.
yes, and
This-
we haven't reviewed that here in a couple months, so.
Okay. Okay,
So,
so I'll talk with Anthony now,
Okay,
because I looked at it,
Great.
today.
Okay.
actually, So,
fantastic.
yeah, I'll discuss it with
I
her.
would sure like a peek, because I was the one who wrote the original one, and I've never seen anything else that's been
Yeah,
done.
it's in the packet.
Is it
In this packet?
Well, I printed it off. I
I
printed it
didn't-
from the
Oh, we
packet.
didn't get it in
We
this
didn't
packet.
get it.
Oh, you
Yeah.
didn't?
Yeah,
I printed it off the website.
I would appreciate looking at it, because it's
Yeah.
my work, or
Yeah,
was.
it's on the website. Because when I printed the agenda and then I went and, you know, printed anything that was gonna be, that I knew was gonna be talked about.
Yeah, when I
tonight.
spoke
With
to
the planning
Anthony
commission
about
update, I
it,
don't know what that is.
she said that
Didn't get
they
emailed
needed,
to us.
no, she said that they needed, they needed a little bit more time to review it, and that hopefully we'll have.
Oh,
that
maybe I'm
next
misspeaking
month.
then. Maybe it came on my email. I'm sorry. I thought I printed, maybe I didn't if she said it needed more time.
Yeah, that's what I heard, but, maybe,
I apologize. It might have been.
no,
on my
that's
email.
okay, maybe
I
she
thought I
was,
remembered
maybe
printing
she
it
was
off the
sending it
site.
to you to review and,
Yeah.
but, yeah, it'll be nice to have that. Have that done,
One of the
but,
things we had talked about was, just in the first draft, we had some examples of signage in this city, and we realized we shouldn't use anything from inside the city. But those things are easy to find.
Sure.
But, yeah, it would be really good to get that done.
Yeah.
and in the meantime, you know, we encourage everyone to look at the design guidelines and standards. They're all broken down by chapters. Each chapter is meant to stand alone, so you can literally just pull the streetscape section out. You know, if they have questions, to please ask, not us, but the city office. And they will do their best to help provide answers to those questions.
Well, they should come for a review, a consultation at a minimum.
Right,
And we
and,
need to
and
increase
the-
that culture.
And the city, the office can pass on that information is
Yeah.
what, you know, is what we're aiming for. So that everyone's on the same
Something good is
page.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there, you know?
Something that came up in the ethics training is that there's nothing wrong, the FOIA training, there's nothing wrong with having an item for topics we want to talk about in the next meeting as an agenda item going forward. I would really appreciate it if we could do that, because then we could set agenda items for the next meeting and be sure that we're covering what everybody says, because technically right now, we're not allowed to do that because it's not on the agenda. So I would ask again, Bassett and Planning too, to please have an agenda item so that we can throw out topics for the next meeting, not discuss them, but say what, is there something you want to talk about next meeting? Because otherwise I just find both
Like
of
a
these
bulk
commissions.
agenda item.
Yeah, exactly. Both of these commissions end up moving more slowly towards things we ought to be moving more swiftly towards.
I can request that item be added.
Thank you.
And with that, I think we've covered everything. I would ask if there are any public comments. There is
No public
no
present.
public present to receive comment from. So if there's nothing else,
Move to adjourn.
I second.
all in favor?
Just, knocking on it.
Motion-
It keeps,
No.
talked about it 9
Yeah.
times and I didn't talk to myself
Bye,
about it a few times.